We want to find out exactly what this means for this country. And to do that, we'll bring in the Minister of Public Services and Procurement, Anita. She's with us from Oakville. Hi, Minister. Good to see you as always. Thank you for making the time.
Hi, Vashi. Great to be here.
The Prime Minister said in question period today that he has spoken to the President of the European Commission. Can you tell us exactly what assurance was provided around the possibility of us not getting our vaccines?
It appears that the EU proposal is a monitoring or notification process which aims to provide transparency to the EU regarding which doses of vaccines are leaving the EU. It is not an embargo per se, and therefore Canada's shipments of vaccines from the EU, from Moderna and Pfizer, are not in jeopardy. We expect, therefore, to continue to receive Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, and we will have 6 million of those vaccines in this country prior to the end of March. And then, of course, 20 million of those approved vaccines in the second quarter. And then all Canadians will have access to a vaccine prior to the end of September, with over 70 million of approved vaccines alone coming into this country. I want to add that we do have other vaccines in rolling review. And so every day I am seeking to ensure that we can have those deliveries moved up as well. And so indeed, we may see accelerated timelines if that is indeed possible.
And I do have questions about the possibility of that in just a second. I just want to make sure, in layman's terms, for all of us watching, that we're positive. The Prime Minister got a guarantee that the vaccines coming in the coming weeks from Pfizer and Moderna to Canada will still come.
The Prime Minister was assured by the President of the European Commission that Canada's shipments were not in jeopardy.
The additional monitoring that they're planning on, and from what I've read, the announcement might come on Friday. Will it impact the speed with which, could it impact the speed with which those vaccines are exported?
Of course, it's just very early days. This only came to light yesterday, and so it's unclear what precisely this notification system is going to entail. I have been in touch already with Pfizer and Moderna regarding any details that they have relating to the notification system. And as soon as those details come to light, we will tell Canadians, but we don't expect delays at this point.
Are you worried at all, given our experience, let's say in the past few weeks with Pfizer, are you worried about the possibility of delays?
Well, make no mistake, Vashi, this is a global environment like the world has never seen before. All countries, all individuals are seeking the same product at the same time. And therefore, we are fighting every day to get vaccines for Canadians. And that's what we will continue to do, to make sure that even in this competitive global environment, we are placing Canada in the best stead possible. It was our diverse procurement approach which got us to this stage. We were one of the first countries to begin inoculations. We have the largest, most diverse portfolio of vaccines in the world and the largest number of doses per capita in the world because of our diversity, because of our fortitude, and we will continue to press Canada's interests at every step of the way.
A diverse portfolio is one thing, and certainly it's expected at some point that will be of great help to Canadians. But right now, 2% of our population has received at least one dose. 6% of the U.S. population has received the same. 30% of Israel's population, and 10% of the UK's population. So it's one thing to tout the diversity and strength of the portfolio, but if it's not here yet, it's not really making a difference to Canadians' lives.
Actually, Vashi, I look at it a different way. The Pfizer shipments were reduced this week, but we still had Moderna inoculations occurring. We've got over 10% of the Yukon population inoculated, over 21% of the Northwest Territories, 12.7% of the Nunavut population inoculated with Moderna. Those are very positive signs. We've had over 1.1 million Canadians inoculated thus far. We have to be cognizant of the fact that there is a globally competitive environment, and Canada is competing with its global peers every single day. In addition to that, Vashi, we have procured supplies for all the provinces and territories, from needles, swabs, syringes, and also dry ice, which we saw today that Japan is having a hard time procuring. So we're being very proactive on the supply front as well as the vaccine front to enable each and every jurisdiction to undertake vaccinations, and all of that stuff, including the vaccines, have been supplied without charge.
So is the insinuation then, Minister, that Canadians should not be looking elsewhere and saying, hey, it's going a bit better in some other countries? Like, are we to just discount that comparative value? Are those questions not important?
Not at all. I think it's important just to have some understanding of the global environment in which we're all operating, and that the world has never seen a vaccination campaign like this before. And when we put these contracts into place, not one country knew whether there would be a vaccine developed at all. And so, having said that, we were placing ourselves in very good stead to have early access to a vaccine. That's why we saw Canada being at the front of the line with the first vaccinations before the holidays. And that's why all Canadians will have an access to vaccines this year prior to the end of September, because of our aggressive procurements, because of our fortitude at the bargaining table.
The other promise your government has made, and specifically the Prime Minister, is 20 million Canadians will have access to inoculation prior to the end of June. When it comes to trying to get deliveries for vaccines that have not yet been approved, and specifically here I'm talking about Johnson & Johnson, for example, you said, I think it was yesterday, that you're in conversations about the delivery timetable. How soon at this point, after the approval of that vaccine, whenever, if it happens, but assuming that it does, how soon after that will the first deliveries come to this country?
So my goal as Procurement Minister has been to ensure that we have inoculations occurring in Canada as soon as we have regulatory approval. So we were able to do that with Pfizer, we were able to do that with Moderna, and the goal is no different with AstraZeneca and J&J. In fact, I have been in touch with these companies already to ensure and seek to move up our timelines so that if we get early regulatory approval, we can have doses in Canada and inoculations beginning as soon as possible thereafter. I have also brought up the possibility of pre-positioning doses, that is, bringing doses in earlier than regulatory approval so that the doses are right here in Canada. With Pfizer and Moderna, that wasn't easy because they require refrigeration at quite low temperatures, especially Pfizer. But with AstraZeneca and J&J, the vaccines are not as fragile. So I'm hoping that there's a greater possibility that we can pre-position doses or bring them into the country as soon as possible after regulatory approval.
But you don't have any specifics yet from the company on when that might happen. I'm just trying to gauge for viewers, for example, how soon after that approval might we be able to use the J&J one? Because as you point out, it's a lot less sort of cumbersome to administer.
Well, let's remember, we don't have the results of clinical trials from J&J yet, but we are expecting those any day. And after that, there will still be the regulatory review process. But if all goes well, we're very much hoping that we will have supplies of J&J in the country to provide inoculations to Canadians. That's why I'd like to say that we are continually trying to accelerate the vaccination regime for Canadians. And that's what I do every day in my conversations with vaccine suppliers to make sure that Canadians have the earliest possible access to vaccine.
But at this point, you can't say, for example, to people watching that a week after the approval of J&J, should it happen, if it happens, there will be vaccine in this country. You don't have that timeline at this point.
As soon as I have a specific assurance and date, I will provide it to you and to Canadians. The important point to remember is that we are negotiating with these companies for the earliest possible delivery dates, but we don't yet have a date when regulatory approval will be granted. And so we need to wait for that to make sure that we have a specific date that we can ensure deliveries are occurring around.
Is there a portion of, I think it's 38 million doses that you've bought from J&J, is there a portion already allocated to Q2?
We have 10 million doses coming from J&J, and we do have a portion allocated to Q2.
And what is the portion for Q2?
That's still being negotiated, actually, and I will definitely tell you as soon as we have assurances from J&J about what they can deliver. But I want to say that it's very early days with J&J. We don't have clinical trial results yet. We don't have regulatory approval as a result. And so we are beginning these conversations very early so that we have Canada in very good stead when the time comes.
Okay, Minister, I'll leave it there. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it as always.
Thank you so much, Vashi. All my best.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.